Good afternoon, everybody. Let me introduce myself. My name is Chris Carey. I'm the tech director at Bellarmine College Prep. We're a college prep, all-boys Jesuit high school basically here in San Jose, California, and a Meru customer since 2009. I've got a fairly decent technical knowledge, though I'll be blown out of the water by your questions, I'm sure, but I'll do my best to answer them. But I wanted to start off before I tell you about our environment with a kind of just introduce to you how I got involved with Maroon. Back in 2009, there were a lot of laptop carts still. I'm sure you guys have heard the stories. The scenario is you roll 30 computers into a room, the kids boot them up, you know, they're all supposed to come up and work, and class is only 45 minutes, so every second's precious. So I had this problem. I had some HP laptops, there's an old Broadcom chipset, and for whatever reason, 20 or 22 out of the 31 would come up, and the rest would take some time. And we had a scenario where it was configured for roaming profiles on a Windows domain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this really, it went from like what should have been a 2 or 3 minute startup time for the teacher to sometimes 5 or 10, depending on how well or how poorly it went. So we had a bake-off. I invited a few wireless vendors in. We're not going to name other names, but I'm sure you can guess who they are. The only one to make that work reliably was Maroon. And the way we did it is we set it up one afternoon, and I tested it out, and then the very next morning class came in. Well, it was a disaster. What happened was that I powered off the controller and didn't save it before doing it. So I'd watched the SE set it up the day before, and so I'm like, well, let me see if I can fix this. And in about 15 minutes, I was able to reconfigure the controller, having never touched the product before. So there's two stories here. One, from my point of view, they won because they made my clients connect, and it's been working very reliably ever since. Number two, I learned a lot, and I was able to actually duplicate the configuration. So that is kind of how, when in 2009, when we raised a bunch of money and decided to rebuild maybe 3/4 of our campus as our first building, Sobrato Center, we chose Maroon Networks. Any questions on that before I continue?
Good story.
Okay, thank you. The Bellarmine campus is actually about 25 acres, and we've got 175 APs. And as you can see, from the variety of styles, we have 15 832s, 110 332s, 50 AP 1020s. We may be the epitome of what the Meru presentation has been thus far. Flexibility throughout, and what we've done is try to purchase these access points as a school to maximize our investment. We didn't want to spend the most on the most expensive access points and put them everywhere, and we didn't want to, cheap out, if you will. We wanted to right size the deployment and make sure that we get the most money for the school, most bang for the buck. So what we've done is we've taken some of the areas of the campus, for example, the maintenance facility, the student life center, the soccer field, where we just have a small crowd some of the times, and we've said, this is a good place to put the normal AP, the AP 1020, right? That gives great performance, but we don't have the ultra high bandwidth demands. Same thing with where the Jesuit priests live. We've got about 20 of them in a residence hall scenario. We've got the 1020s in there. Then we went and we said, all right, let's figure out what's good for the classrooms. And there we put the AP 332s. That's kind of the more high performant AP, and we've got a bunch of those. That's kind of our primary. And then recently, we've decided to add some 832s. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Those are the AC capable APs, and I'll tell you where and how we've deployed that. But the idea, right, is that we wanted to say, all right, what's the right product, the right solution for the right area? And that actually goes past the product. It goes to how we have it configured. So in some cases, we are absolutely single channel architecture, okay? We look at the student life center, we look at the residence hall, we look at, the soccer field. These are areas where I don't want to worry about channel planning, excuse me. It's easy, you just put them up, they said like light bulbs, sprinklers, whatever you want to call it, you guys know the answer. What it is that I'm not a wireless engineer, I'm just the customer, and I can kind of almost do my own design in those areas. And it's been great to get a little experience with that, and it works. But then there's some other cases that we've explored where we've got some really, really crazy density requirements, and I'll talk about those on the next slide and how we dealt with it. And that's where we kind of went to a multi-channel architecture. For example, our gymnasium, we have 1,650 students. They all just got iPads this year, okay? I think there's probably going to be a time when half of that school's in that gym. So we've got quite a few APs in there. So we want to figure out how to performance that. So we're layering those channels. We're making that work. The same thing with our auditorium, right? So in the gym, we've put 4 clusters of 3, those triangles you saw on the slide before. So for 12 APs in the gym. And then our cafeteria, we've put 3 clusters of 2. And then we have a theater that seats about 450 students, and we've put 2 clusters of 3. And so we've worked tightly with Maroon on this channel layering design. And that's how we've handled these really high density, high bandwidth scenarios. In our classrooms, we've experimented a little bit. We've tried some single channel, we've tried some channel layering. Right now what we're doing is something that you guys are all pretty familiar with. I don't even know what you want to call it, but Meru calls it native mode. The idea is that we've got, let's say this is our classroom building, we've got 2 floors stacked on top of each other. There's 9 rooms on each floor. 60 by 120 is the rough area, right? I didn't measure it out, I just paced it out. What we've had to do, because we've got so many clients, they mentioned taking the room capacity, multiply it by 2.5. We've said basically that every student, every person in the room is going to have probably 3 devices. You do this every day, you probably heard the same thing. I actually got that figure from a gentleman from the University of Texas, I believe, who's a Meru customer, and we've been kind of working with that. So we're going to effectively have almost 1,000 devices on each floor stacked on top of each other. That's a lot of connections, and it's also a lot of bandwidth, right? These students are used to, in their homes, the Comcast connection that pulls 30 down, all right? They each want that. As a private school, we have to provide this type of experience for the people, right? They pay their tuition. The teachers are extraordinarily dependent on using technology in the classroom. They don't want to wait for something to connect. They don't want to sit there and say, hey, okay guys, the lesson's not working today because the wireless isn't working. We have to give them some consistency. So what we've done is we've said we're going to put 1 AP per room. These are small rooms. We kind of looked at the single channel architecture and it worked quite well, but this works better and we get more throughput for every student in this scenario. Okay, so this is our story. It all works for different reasons and different applications. Okay. Now, the neat thing about this is that in a week we're going to have these all filled up, and I'm going to be able to tell a whole different story. And I'm excited to tell that story because we've worked and we've tested, and it's going to be a wonderful thing. But we'll let you know, and we'll let the boys speak. We're going to try to do another article. It'll be a lot of fun to hear how that first day experience went, but we're working hard at it. This is where the kind of fun gets going. This is a very lightweight version of what you all know extraordinarily well. Let me first talk about the system. What we've got is we've got an MC4200 controller, which is our primary controller. And that's a physical box, okay? We decided to go with that just to kind of take it out of the realm of the virtual question mark. We're a 100% VMware shop. We've got everything virtualized except for a few pieces, and this is one of them. We figured, why waste it? So at the same time, we also wanted to have an N+1 scenario. So what we did is we got a virtual N+1 controller. We also got their IDM software, their identity manager, and we also have their EasyRF, okay? So this is kind of what our product stack looks like. Our school has been, for the most part, BYOD. We're 1,650 students, about 150, 200 faculty and staff. Today, or actually before school let out in May, we had about 1,200 devices on our network without trying. Now we're adding 1,800 of those. 1,650 students, 150 faculty and staff iPads. And they all want to have an Apple TV in each room, and that talks bonjour. So when I was planning for this in February and January, we came up with a really great scheme. We're going to subnet this thing out. We're going to make sure that when you connect to one SSID in one building on one floor, you're only going to see the Apple TVs that are wired on that subnet. We did a great job. It worked. We got it all ready. Well, I just had the pleasure of installing the Bonjour gateway that they released, or that they're about to release, a short while ago. And that took my job and it just divided it in about 10th. So all of a sudden, I'm able to just flick some switches in the GUI. I'm not trying to sell it, but it was amazing. It's the first time I'd seen it. It's really intuitive. It allows me to group access points, SSIDs, and people, right? And say, you can see this printer or this particular Apple TV, and you can't. And all the things they were talking about is true. I think you might even get a demo of some of this later on, but I wish I had that back in February. No offense. I'm glad it's here now. So what we've done is we've said, all right, this is our stack. We've got BYOD, we have iPad, we have Bonjour. How do we do it? This is a work in progress. We've got a number of SSIDs. We're hoping to reduce them. You heard me talk about the carts earlier. Those are going to go away, so we can kind of ignore that one. What we've done is we've separated out students and faculty staff. It's all 802.1x. We need to be accountable for what the students and the teachers do on the network, primarily the students. And I don't have the time or the staff to get those people any help connecting. So what we did is we used the Identity Manager software to connect easily to the 802.1x network. They go onto the guest network, they sign in with their Active Directory credentials, it figures out what group they belong into, and it configures their device. Their Windows machine, their Mac machine, their iPad. I'm sure it works on Android too, I haven't tried it. Bottom line is, all my users are now 802.1x, and I didn't have to do much work other than just tell them to log in and do it, okay? That's neat. What we did there is we actually increased security because we're a small shop and we didn't have the manpower to support 802.1x before. What we had was a pre-shared key. Anybody who came on the campus says you can get on the BCP network because the password is, there you go, and you knew it. I should say it, but it's on the air. We still have it in a few places. The bottom line is, this is the way it should be. I now know where the students are at, what they're doing, and we have the ability to track anybody on the network, okay? And it's important because we're a school that actually does not block internet access. We only log it. We're a private school, we have the option to do that. We've actually foregoed some public funding because of it. We believe firmly that that technology doesn't work for our environment. But we still need to find a way to keep things under control. You know, the students we've got are smart enough that as soon as you start blocking stuff, they find the way around it, and they do it encrypted, so you don't know what they're doing. It's not a great security by obscurity policy, but it's one version of why we did what we did. The legacy one, don't even get me started. As you know, mixed mode doesn't always work with all clients, so that's what that's about, okay? So we've got a lightweight network for those people that want their ancient BlackBerry phones to be able to connect up, and we limit their bandwidth and firewall the heck out of them, and you know, there we go. So that's what that's all about. So carts, probably gonna go away. The BCP, we'll see how long that sticks around. It's secured and locked down. The guest is our entry point to our students and fac staff's 802.1x networks, and provides guest access as well. Any questions on this so far? Great. So I'm getting close to the end. The next bit is kind of a joke. What would a field day be without a field? We recently rebuilt our baseball field, and it's not even done in this picture. It's actually gorgeous. But what we decided to do was put some access points and make it not really a pro ballpark, right? But we're going to give access to our fans of any school. And I was excited to hear that the new IDM supports logging with your social identity. So it kind of makes it easy. We already have Active Directory accounts for our faculty, for our students, and for our parents. Weird place, I understand that. So they use that to get on our network whenever they need to. But we didn't know what to do about our guests. And how do you manage that many guests? You know, you want to be able to control them. You might even want to be able to get back to them, you know, maybe do a follow-up survey about their game. So there's some information here that we'd like to gather, and we'd also like to provide them a good secured wireless network. So that's kind of what we're up to. So that's a little bit about our story. It's been an interesting ride, and the telling point will be day 1, day 2, day 3. I plan to take a 10-day vacation starting the 3rd day in school, so I'm really hoping this works out well. Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great.